Namaskar, a warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Aditi Lumba bringing glimpses of major developments of the state from across the globe. The headlines. Foreign envoys visit India's indigenous COVID-19 vaccine facility in Hyderabad. Laud the progress. Bill Gates commends India's policies on digital financial inclusion and innovation. Says digital platforms allow government benefits to reach the poorest more efficiently. Mystery disease situation in Eluru being brought under control, say officials. Joe Biden sets a goal of 100 million COVID vaccinations and mandatory masking in his first 100 days as U.S. president, and global emissions reach record high in 2019, says UNEP report. A team of 70 ambassadors and high commissioners from several nations visited the Bharat Biotech facility and Genome Valley, Hyderabad on Wednesday. The idea was to learn more about their work to establish a safe and efficacious vaccine against COVID-19. Covaxin, India's indigenous COVID-19 vaccine by Bharat Biotech, is developed in collaboration with the Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, National Institute of Virology, NIV. It is currently in its phase 3 human clinical trials. The delegation was led by the Ministry of External Affairs. The visitors were given a virtual and physical tours of the company's facilities. The envoys voiced their appreciation of Bharat Biotech work of national and global public health significance. The team has been working very hard for several months to manufacture the vaccine against the COVID-19 pandemic. Mass vaccination with Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine in Britain is on, and it has generated positive vibes across the globe. British Premier Boris Johnson said the vaccine will overcome COVID-19, but only slowly. In another development, Brussels today signed a deal with Pfizer for the supply of vaccines next year. COVID-19 recovery rate in India has improved to 94.66%. Meanwhile, WHO has confirmed that the number of COVID-19 infections has crossed 67.53 million worldwide. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has made an impassioned appeal to the country to follow the coronavirus restrictions ahead of Christmas. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has set a goal of 100 million COVID vaccinations in his first 100 days in office. At a press conference in Delaware, Mr. Biden introduced his health team. He shared the roadmap of how the largest vaccination program in U.S. history would be carried out. Mr. Biden said that getting children back to school would also be a priority for him. He made an appeal to the people of the U.S. to mask up for 100 days to help fight the pandemic.
We need your help. Wear a mask for just 100 days. It's the easiest thing you can do to reduce COVID cases, hospitalizations, and death. Help yourself, your family, and your community. Mask up for 100 days once we take office. 100 days to make a difference. My first 100 days, I'm going to ask for a masking plan. It will start with my signing an order on day one to require masks where I can under the law.
Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation founder Bill Gates has commended India for its policies on digital financial inclusion and innovation. Speaking at the Singapore FinTech Festival on Tuesday, he praised India's digital platforms like UPI and Aadhaar. Bill Gates said that these initiatives have ensured that government benefits reach out to the poorest more efficiently.
Because of the scale and the safeguards, the identity system, the Aadhaar work that India did, I'd say if people are going to study one country right now, I'd say they should look at India, because things are really exploding there and the innovation around that system is phenomenal.
India's Minister of Education, Mr. Ramesh Pokhriyal, held a virtual meeting with his UAE counterpart, Mr. Hussain bin Ibrahim Al Hamadi, on Wednesday. Al Hamadi appreciated India's national education policy and said that it is a visionary document with the emphasis on holistic development of the students. Both ministers agreed that it is required to enhance cooperation in the education sector. Mr. Pokhriyal invited students from UAE to India under the Study in India program. He also invited more number of faculties to India for taking short-term courses in Indian universities under Gyan program. The minister disclosed that MOU on cooperation in the field of education between India and UAE is at an advanced stage of finalization. Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, has congratulated Sheikh Sabah Al Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah on his reappointment as Prime Minister of Kuwait. In a series of tweets, Mr. Modi expressed confidence that bilateral relations will continue to expand and flourish. This is All India Radio giving you the world news. India's External Affairs Ministry has asserted that New Delhi is well positioned with its demographic dividend to contribute to globalization, which thrives on the mobility of global talent. Addressing the 9th Global Summit on Skill Development, Mr. Sanjay Bhattacharya, Secretary in the External Affairs Ministry, hailed the signing of India-EU Declaration of Common Agenda on Migration and Mobility in 2016 in organizing and promoting regular migration at all levels. He said that mutually beneficial arrangements can be explored to India, improve the presence of highly skilled workers and professionals through with Europe and USA and Japan. India commemorates the return of Mahatma Gandhi to India from South Africa as the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas on 9th of January every year. Ahead of the occasion, India's Ministry of External Affairs launched a website for a more fruitful engagement of India's diaspora in India's growth story. The PBD website was launched on Tuesday for the 16th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas Convention by Minister of State for External Affairs, Mr. V. Muralidharan. The website can be accessed at the URL pbdindia.gov.in. In a related development, Mr. Muralidharan hailed the Indian diaspora as ambassadors of the great culture of the country. The minister was speaking in the first of a series of conferences in the run-up to the PBD convention on the 9th of January 2021. The idea was to connect with, honor and showcase India's diaspora under the theme, Role of Diaspora in Promotion of Indian Culture Abroad. He stated that the success stories of India's diaspora are countless, citing the example of Ms. Kamala Harris, who became the Vice President-elect of USA recently. The minister said that India's diaspora is recognized internationally for its intellect, scientific temper, way of life through Ayurveda, yoga, music and Bollywood. Senior Indian diplomat Mr. Vikas Swarup has said that having more women in peacekeeping means more effective peacekeeping. He was delivering the keynote address at a plenary session titled The Future of Women in Peacekeeping at the International Conference hosted by Vietnam. He said women peacekeepers have greater access to communities, help in protection of most vulnerable, and inspire other women to play a meaningful part in peace and political process. Mr. Swarup highlighted the contribution of Indian Army officer Major Suman Gawani, who was awarded the UN Military Gender Advocate of the Year in 2019. The officer encouraged participation in joint military patrols to maintain gender balance. The Indian Coast Guard rescued 19 Bangladeshi fishermen stranded in the Bay of Bengal on Tuesday. The boat was adrift for 10 days in the Bay of Bengal after a mechanical snag. The Indian Coast Guard said that the Bangladeshi fishermen were rescued in a sea and air coordinated operation and they were provided with first aid and food and water. The boat will be handed over to the Bangladesh authorities. The Emissions Gap Report 2020 by the United Nations Environment Programme UNEP has said that the global greenhouse gas emissions reached a new high in 2019. It has put the world on track for an average temperature rise of 3 degrees Celsius. The total emissions of carbon dioxide equivalent reached a record high of 59.1 gigatons in 2019. On to sports now. In football, Juventus beat Barcelona by 3-0 in the Champions League tie on Tuesday night. In tennis, American Sofia Kenin has been named WTA Player of the Year after winning her maiden Grand Slam singles title at the Australian Open. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishwavidhan, by artists from Kazakhstan. And with that, we end this bulletin. See you at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.